베를린엔 숨겨진 패션 도서관이 있습니다. 8개의 방, 6,000점의 옷, 세계 최대의 헬무트랑 아카이브, 할리우드 최정상급 셀럽들도 이곳을 찾습니다. 이 모든 건 대학생 리셀러 한 명의 손에서 탄생했습니다. 사고팔고를 반복하며 덩치를 키운 그의 아카이브는 그렇게 세계 최고의 옷장이 됐습니다. 이곳의 이름은 엔디마. 우린 엔디마의 수장 마이클에게 어떻게 이 프로젝트를 시작했고 지금까지 해오고 있는지 그 과정을 물었습니다. 패션을 넘어 엔디마가 바라보는 소셜미디어와 AI 그리고 한국에 대한 이야기도 나눴는데요. 그 이야기의 주인공 마이클을 만나러 그 비밀의 문을 열어볼까요?
We are cringe friends. And my name is Higon.
And my name is Bilt.
Before we start, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Michael Kardamakis. I am the founder of Endyma, an archive based in Berlin that focuses primarily on designer fashion from the 90s and decades past that. We have, over the years, developed the largest collection of Helmut Lang in the world. So that's like our main selling point, I would say, as a fashion archive. But also besides Helmut Lang, we have a lot of other designers from British to Italian to Belgian, Japanese. And my objective with this project is to create a resource for designers and fashion enthusiasts that can be open to interpretation and be used a bit like a library of clothing, like something that each person brings like their own interpretation to it.
Your introductory reminded me two questions. First one is, so how many pieces you have, including like every designers, and how many Helmut Lang pieces you have?
With Helmut Lang, we have a little bit less than 3.6 thousand. From other designers, there's about 2,500. So we are somewhere a bit less than 6,000 objects in total, spread out 8 different rooms of this apartment. So yeah, it's quite a lot of them.
8 different rooms.
I think it's 8. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 8. Yeah.
You told me that the Endyma is to give people like informations as a physical pieces to fashion enthusiasts and also like students and designers. But was it a reason why you made this?
No,
for the
not at
first
all.
time?
I didn't really plan any of this. It wasn't really my intention to start an archive. Or this project really started out of me being also an enthusiast, being interested in clothing. So I started as a student when I moved to England to study art history. During this time, I was learning a lot about how to analyze objects. In an art history degree, you are invited to think analytically about things that surround you. This means you can analyze artworks, but you can also analyze a chair or a design object or a door handle or whatever. And it was combined with my own curiosity about finding the right clothes for myself to wear. I started researching and buying things online. And of course, as we all know, when you buy things online, usually they don't come and feel exactly like you expect, especially if you're not so experienced. Like you buy things and you realize, okay, this is completely different from what I thought it was from looking at photos. So I was buying things online and the pieces that I didn't like, which were most of them actually, I thought I was a bit surprised. Most of them, I just put them back on the market. So I was buying things from like eBay, local marketplaces and things like that. And I would just put them back on eBay, try to write a little text that was like interesting. And this actually I would buy something for like 30 pounds and it would sell for like 60 or 70. And that was like quite nice. You know, if you're like young and you're a student, that's like some money. So I realized like maybe I'm good at this. So as I went on throughout my studies, I would research different brands and just buy them. A bit to resell, but also a bit to make my own wardrobe. So it was always a bit closely tied to what I want to wear. So back then I would buy any designer. I had no real interest in Helmut Lang per se. It was more like whatever I thought I could find a good deal on. So I was also buying like Prada, Gucci, Belgian independent designers that I thought sounded cool. I was going in fashion forums. Back then, before Discord, you would go to like individual forums. And I was kind of learning from there, discovering new cool designers that not really new, but more like new to me. Through this process, I was kind of developing this repertoire of brands. This project has always been about riding the wave. So what I mean by that is that it was always about listening, how people engage with the work, which is also what we do here today at the archive. So for example, okay, I bought all these different things and I'm putting them for sale. Some of them perform better than others. So I saw that Helmut Lang was actually selling really well. It was really easy to find back then. All of this happened also, I was at the right place at the right time. So 90s fashion back then was really underappreciated. People were looking for skinny leather jackets, black drop crotch pants by Rick Owens, waterfall cardigans. Things were looking a bit like moody and romantic and more like costumey. And 90s fashion was seen as like too boring, too simple. So it was actually really easy to find things. I started slowly specializing on some brands. First Helmut Lang jacket I bought, and I thought it was a bit too big for me. I put it back for sale. I bought it for like about 100, and I sold it for like 400. My rent was 350 pounds back then.
Yeah.
So like, you know, it was like nice. I was writing the address of the buyer on the package. I realized it's Avenue George the 5th, number 3 or whatever. That's pretty in Paris. And I was like, that's pretty central. That's like one of the main avenues in Paris. I looked it up online and I realized it went to the headquarters of Givenchy. Givenchy back then was designed by Riccardo Tisci. He is also into Helmut Lang. He is a fan of the brand and he has often used Helmut Lang's sort of approach to design in his own collections for Givenchy, but also later for Burberry and other things that he's done. It was interesting for me to see that designers were interested in this brand in this way. So for me, it was a bit like I was trying to find something that resonates. And for me, I was a person coming from like academia, sort of like art history, and I was kind of trying to infiltrate fashion, and I didn't really know how. When I started connecting with professionals, these were like the people I looked up to. These were the people that I wanted to be useful to. Basically, I started focusing on brands that I realized designer clients were more interested in. Not just people who like fashion just to wear, but people who actually shape the fashion story. Eventually, I became a specialized dealer in Helmut Lang. At this point, also, I graduate, and I realized that with my art history degree, my choices are quite limited. I can either do internships at art galleries, or I can keep studying and become an academic. I was not really interested in either of these things. So I realized this hobby of mine, or like this side hustle, I can keep doing it for a while, at least. And fast forward to now, I'm no longer a reseller. We still sell some stuff in the archive because we don't need to keep like every single object that comes through here. But my primary agenda is to create a body of objects that all relate to each other and generate a conversation rather than the profits generated by selling. Basically, the real transition between shop and archive, like the real switch, was when I studied in Norwich in the east of England, then I moved to London for a bit, then I returned to Athens. Rents in Athens were very cheap, large, I could like experiment, I had time. So I started thinking for the first time of doing something more like a collection that you can visit, physical space. And I started getting research appointments with designers. At the beginning, I was just selling to them. But then, actually, I started getting different kinds of requests. One time, I had a designer from Bottega Veneta when it was just relaunching. So Daniel Lee had just become designer. He was also our client before. He was shopping clothes for himself. And then he sent one of his designers to Athens to see the entire collection. Usually the process is a designer makes a selection, they make like an edit, and I give them a price list. So this guy asks me, so do you do rentals? And I was like, yeah, all the time, you know, like, so it was a bit like faking it. It had to try to be an archive before it became an archive. But when we started getting these kind of requests, so for designers, it doesn't make sense to buy. On one hand, it's more expensive. And on the other hand, when you buy things, it means you buy the proof of your research. No one needs, you don't want people to see the proof. So renting means you pay less and then you give it away. It makes more sense from a designer's perspective. So it's a win-win. We get to keep the stuff and they have more things for inspiration on a smaller budget or whatever. Throughout my career, it's been about listening to what my customers want and also changing my process based on what I learned from these clients. Many of the people who have visited us are very important designers, very qualified, very capable, and sometimes very talented, and they have really interesting things to say. And these things I am mentally taking notes every time we have a person like that in here, and through their feedback, anything can become feedback. Like we use that information to guide us forward. So every big kind of designer appointment we have here shows me what's the way forward.
It's really cool that because when people say, do what you love, it's really easy to be selfish. Like, oh, because I love this, I'm gonna do this, but why people don't get it, something like this. But I think it's really cool that you started from what you really like and you never blocked what people say outside, keep listening it and interact with outside world, made like supply and demand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think fashion is inherently a very social enterprise, but also humans are very social beings, And through other people, life becomes meaningful. I feel most professionally satisfied when my work is recognized and respected, but also when it's useful. When I see it being of use to other people, and I see different people adding their own layers of meaning to it. So it's inherently tied. Like for me, when I chose to not become an academic, not to go into like studying more, it was because I wanted to do something commercial, because commercial gives me this validation that other people agree with you. It's really important, and it comes a little bit because of who I am. But of course, with designers, someone who is like a creative person, I think it's also important to know when to shut down and stop listening, because also something comes from within, you know. But I'm not a designer, I'm a curator. I group objects together, try to tell a story. So someone needs to be listening for this story to matter.
It's kind of random, but I want to ask you, have you ever been broke before? Throughout whole this process, at some point you need to put like resources to scale it.
Yeah.
So I want to know if it was always profitable.
It's interesting. I come from a country that had a big financial crisis. So I was raised kind of middle class, upper middle class. I went to a private school, and then my parents paid for my rent when I was at university. I didn't have to like work to. So this gave me for sure like a head start, because I had the time to think about what I want to do as opposed to just working all the time. But at the same time, I also saw my family's income like really dropping when I was coming out into the world, when I was like 21, when I was graduating from university. My parents had like no money. They saw their lives really changing. So this is of course very devastating. So I really enjoyed the first stage of my career, which was reselling, because it was like I was making a lot of money. I would buy things for very little amounts and then sell them for like often 10 or 20 times what I paid. Because back then it was really easy to find used things. And if you put in the effort to make them look nice, then someone would buy like something I paid €10 for like 300 or whatever. At first, that gave me a sense of confidence and satisfaction, like making money. I could also like help my family a little bit and just feel comfortable. It was quite rare for Greek people to feel financially comfortable. Honestly, this got a bit boring quite fast. Like, so now I know I've seen money in my life. Sometimes some rapper comes in here and we make like a lot of money in like a few hours. It feels a bit been there, done that for me. So for a long time now, making money has not been my incentive. What has been my incentive is create a sustainable business. So this project did not really start with money. I had some small support from my parents, but it was, I bought the first thing, I sold it for 2, then I bought 2, I sold them for 4, and that's how it happened. Like it was really an exchange. So it wasn't really like I ever had a budget per se. It still remains the case. We don't have any kind of miraculous source of money coming in. Usually people think I'm like really rich. I'm not. To this day now, since we really converted this to an archive, I don't really make money anymore. I need to pay like, of course, the rent and the wages and like all the costs, and also my home and stuff like this. I have also a child now. I don't really make any money anymore. Everything goes back into the business. We are getting new objects. We are making cool things. So I think also this is what allows me to have the confidence to ask people like these guys here, Akio and Laura. They're doing their internship here. They work quite hard. They do really good work and they do it for free. And I also feel okay to ask this of them because I really believe in the work we do. I think people can also learn from this. I think it's a good place to do like an internship. But also because like I'm not getting rich out of this. When I've been more rich than now, like in periods that I've had more money, I also did not have any interns. Everyone was paid. Like I want to be fair to my employees for sure. But beyond that, I don't really care to make money anymore. It's just, of course, I don't want to be on the verge of bankruptcy, but it's not really interesting to me. I can sell this for like 2,000, like it's whatever. I would rather not sell it, It's just a matter, I think, of deciding what's more fulfilling. For me, the experience of the archive is more fulfilling being a reseller or doing like celebrity work. The thing that I think is most demanding about the archive is that we work in many ways a little bit like a strange fashion museum. Like the way we deal with the objects, the way we store them, the way we handle like the operation is very much self-appointed museum, I would say, like a kind of unauthorized museum. But we do this without public funding. So maybe if I had done this through academia or through the fashion industry, I would have been able to connect with people that would allow me to do this as a public institution. And this would probably be a bit easier for us because it's already really hard restoring the garments the way we do, working on them the way we do, researching them the way we do, and then also having to think how we're going to make money to pay rent at the end of the month. On one hand, I like what we do. I like that people who come here, they thank us. The interviews we get from magazines and newspapers, they talk about us in a very interesting way that I think I'm very proud of that. And that people can tell we're not doing this for the money. But at the same time, we need money. So like, please pay us. Like, you know, like, it's a reality that any person has to deal with. Things have to also be financially sustainable. Otherwise, I had a bit of training, I guess, in running a business that was very profitable at the beginning. So then I decided to go a little bit my own way and reduce our profits, but increase storytelling, increase the cultural capital of what we do, and ultimately create something that I think kind of unique. We have our little place. I think it would be very interesting if one day all of this information that we collect is actually fed into an AI. And we see how well it can like generate new designs or something. That I think that could be quite funny. But at the same time, it's a very hybrid data set. And AI is nowhere near advanced enough to really generate meaningful things. It can create visual point at least, it can create visual similarities, something that looks like another thing, but more like as a flat image. And clothing is also about movement, is about tactility, is about the experience of how it feels when you wear it. So it still has a long way to go. And honestly, why does it need to go there? I don't think this is useful for anyone to automate something that is so embodied as clothing. I think it's also fun to experience it materially and not just as data points. The promise of the future is live like Sims, you know, to just like have like fake experiences that look like something real, but it's like in a virtual environment. And for me, I think this is totally uninteresting. And this is also what I chose not to do when we decided we don't want to be an online place anymore. We don't want to be an e-shop, and we want to become a physical destination. For me, it was always about the reality of material objects. This is the thing that I'm most interested in. You know, that I'm not like against the AI or anything like this. It's nice to understand what cannot be replicated. It's nice to draw distinction on these things. Of course, feeding information can create all sorts of interesting conclusions, but I don't care about those conclusions. Designer fashion as we know it today stopped being a niche subject very recently. Even when I entered fashion, that was like 15 years ago, when I first started developing an interest in this industry, it was not a place where all these people who were always poor making collections in Paris. No one ever really, very few people made real money from fashion. This changed the last decade in a big way. Now that, you know, fashion has become also a form of entertainment, and luxury is expressed more in fashion terms. So you see people buying designer more. Like there's somehow less pathways to achieve like social distinction than before. So everyone's buying designer shit. And also at the same time, everyone has a fashion line, everyone has like doing merch. There's just more clothes than ever before. This is a prime example of late capitalism. Everyone thinks more about their appearance. It's about highly developed communities where there's been like lots of no war, a lot of peace. People have food, people have a home, you know, so they can think about more refined, more complex subjects. So everyone's becoming a curator now, everyone's starting an archive. I don't know where this is going. I like what I do and I will keep doing it for now, but also I'm a bit bored of like seeing fashion everywhere. You go on the high street and it's only fashion shops. You go on your social media feed and it's only fashion. Like, I don't know, it's like a bit boring. Like somehow the industry has expanded a lot. Fashion business people have made a lot more money than before, selling like bullshit t-shirts for like 350 euro, you know? There's also a lot of greed there. I think it's interesting because some people are also starting to realize that they are being ripped off. They're being tricked. A Louis Vuitton cotton canvas like bag for like 2,000 euro is actually too much money. 500 grams of coated cotton is just like... People are starting to see through this illusion a bit more. You see that a lot in the stock prices of fashion brands keep dropping. Their sales are dropping. Traditional brands that people would splurge on like Gucci are becoming meaningless. Not only are they selling less, but they're becoming meaningless. Like they're not achieving the sort of allure that they had before. So people like just don't buy it anymore. They like it's whatever. I think these are all great things. I always hated luxury. The way I spoke, it's cocky, but I hate stupid logos. I hate how you see all these people who think they're doing something meaningful and they're wearing like Prada and Gucci and all this bullshit. I think these people are really weak, honestly. It's very hard for me to respect someone who wears shit like this, who think this is the story they want to tell about themselves. I'm interested a lot in distinction, and I think distinction is something that is constantly revolving, and it's a fluid definition of distinction. So of course, something that was meaningful 10 years ago now is becoming meaningless because it's been so exploited. So it's also about, I'm always trying to avoid, I think, mainstream culture. And also the choices that we have here of clothes, like, I don't want to be following trends. I'm not interested in having Raf Simons hoodies or like chrome hearts or any of that shit. Funny enough, I was actually really interested in chrome hearts like about 15 years ago because it was like very different to what the trends were at the time. I think right now I don't want to look at chrome hearts, like no fucking way. Like it's just become like a rapper thing. People need to understand that for a long time, whatever Kanye West or Travis Scott were wearing was how trends would happen, especially in men's clothing. Travis Scott wore this Helmut Lang cargo pant and now it's super expensive. Or like Kanye West wore this Helmut Lang whatever and now it's super expensive. Trends happen also because they have a cool stylist who selected something new for them. So I have so many people who come in here and they're like, I want what Travis Scott wore. And I actually tell them, hey, you're also an artist. You have like a big following. Why, instead of copying what Travis Scott wore, why don't you try to make a similar moment? Like what Travis Scott did. So let's find a new thing that feels like within your style, that looks good, that is going to photograph well, and make your own moment. Like,
cool.
You know, these are people with like millions of followers, and all they care about is what Travis Scott wore. It's funny because, you know, all these rappers, they're always about like, so I'm independent, you know, I'm like, I'm rich, I fuck everyone, you know, whatever. And really all they care about is what Kanye West and Travis Scott did. I think it would be a little bit more interesting if people tried to bring out a personal sense of style. I'm not saying they can work with stylists, you know, they can have a whole team to think about this. It doesn't mean they have to make these choices. But like, also interesting things happen when people are not looking. Otherwise, you're just copying something that's already successful and you're just replicating something. And I think that's, I don't know, boring. It doesn't get anyone anywhere. It's just then everyone's looking like Travis Scott. So then Travis Scott has to change his look. And it's just a constant like replication of already existing images.
We're from Seoul, South Korea. We have quite a lot of population, but the niche fashion market is really niche. It's considered as a thing almost impossible, that making profitable business and doing something cool and doing something you really like at the same time.
Yeah.
And you're from Greece, right?
Yeah.
And I think a niche fashion market is way smaller there.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
you kind of break through situation through Instagram and everything. So is there anything you can give advice to people, not only in Korea, but people around the world who want to do something like cool, they think cool, and who want to something they really like, but thinking that, oh, what if people don't get it?
My first suggestion to anyone would be that they need to go out there. It's really like hard to create a meaningful story if you are just at home, living with your parents or in the same neighborhood your whole life. So that's for me one primary thing to consider, is that people need to travel, people need to see things so that they understand where they fit in all this. My project, the archive, had no future in Greece. I was there when I was building it. I mean, it was nice for me to return home after being many years in the UK, but it was also like the right time to be in Athens. It was like super cheap, and I'm happy I was there for all this, but Greece is a tiny economy and doesn't have a fashion industry. So, like Korea, of course, is super different. I think the primary issue with Korea is that still it's a very affluent country and made money really fast, the way I understand it. So I haven't read much, maybe you can also tell me what I'm saying is bullshit. But like stuff I've read also concerning like female roles in Korea, gender dynamics in Korea, the decline of birth rates in Korea, the rise of also pets in Korea, the popularity of pets, animal pets, the lack of popularity of children. Like I've read a few interesting things about Korea that I thought was actually really interesting. This is also, some of this happens when society changes really fast. And fashion is something that happens in times of stability. Fashion is an activity that comes when society is stable and like people have money to spend, you know. So this is, I think, something that like Korean society has changed so much the last 30, 40 years. I think there was no place for like high fashion. But now, you know, there's people who are like ready for it. For us, when we started, Instagram played a big role that I could like reach out directly to anyone. And I was like a nobody, and I could follow someone like Melanie Ward, for example. We were always exchanging messages with Melanie Ward. She was a very important stylist who also was Helmut Lang's stylist. And I could just ask her questions, you know, and she would like explain to me in a lot of detail. So it was a great way, I think, to exchange information and to connect with like-minded people. Unfortunately, I don't think social media can achieve this anymore, primarily because when we were using social media like 10 years ago, it was still a bit unclear how they can be monetized. Whereas now that there's very particular streams of income for social media, and there's like a bit of race for attention because of also TikToks forced other players to become more like TikTok. So it's become more like a distraction project. People, Instagram was like a way to build like their portfolio. Their online visual presence was on Instagram. And I think now this can still function like that, but you no longer connect with people like you used to. All of these things are, of course, a bit paradoxical because surely there's a way forward. I think the way forward is actually going offline, physical experience. Sure, of course, if you're like in the middle of nowhere in Korea, maybe you can't do a fashion thing, I get it. But like travel, go places, see things, first and foremost, feel things. And when someone becomes ready, you can also bring something home. And that's something I think it no longer makes sense to start an Instagram page. Like so many pages doing everything, like, you know what I mean? We reached a point of saturation online. It's really interesting that we have a total absence of interesting physical experiences. Things are becoming super specific, super analytical in a way that bears no resemblance to what we need to do to be happy here, now, in the physical world. So I think people need to chill, and I think it's fine to like, you know, do what you have to do, be online. Like, if you feel like you have something to say, by all means say it. Maybe you will be very successful, but the playbook is about time that is also rewritten, and we need to go back to other parts where information circulates. There's a lot of information that is found in libraries, in other archives, in other depositories of information. Google can no longer be useful because you do a Google search and it's shit. You used to find stuff. I built my entire music collection by doing advanced Google searches, you know, using stars, using quotes, so you can like find, like you can do complex keywords, you know, stuff like this. So I would find like old tapes and old records or whatever. And now if I do the similar searches, you can't find anything. You just find like t-shirts for sale. Like no matter what you search, it's like always something for sale. People actually have to learn a bit how to do primary research again, I think. And there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in places that are like not online. The best music places in Berlin, they don't have a website. The best places to go here, like live music, is always like 20, 30 people in the crowd. And I'm not saying this, I don't really do this often, but like there's like so much interesting things happening in everywhere that it's just like because they're not online, people think they're not real.
That's mindful. Yeah, I think it's important that like just use Instagram or like social media as a tool to just do some journey. I mean, it has to be the starting point of the journey, but after that, like just like us, we talking, it has to be something in physical, and I really believe that.
Everything can be useful in some way. I think it's more like you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. This means you can't put all of your options in one platform or one type of content or one type of thinking. I know so many people now whose Instagram got hacked, and that was like their entire career, their entire audience, everything gone in like 1 minute.
I also think about saying it's time to learn and get some research about various things, not about something deeper.
I try to remain curious about many things. Like I'm into clothing, but I'm also into many other things. And I think also the way I work with objects could be done for another field. I try to stay sharp also, you know, like I've been doing this thing now for several years and I don't want to repeat myself all the time. But because of the rise of social media and people rely more and more on social media to become informed about what other people are doing. And social media has this aspect of performative communication. Like I don't just take a photo of what I'm doing like right now. I'm creating a nice content that will generate likes that communicates what I'm doing right now. So it's always about this kind of storytelling, but this can also become a little bit meaningless because on one hand you can create a really interesting image or you can create an interesting post or whatever, but this is not really what's happening. Like you see this a lot in events, especially events in Paris. You know, Paris is really expensive. To rent a space in Paris for a week, you might need 15,000 euro or whatever. So you have all these events that are happening in really tiny spaces and it's like 2 people in a room and they make it look amazing on the internet. And then you go there and it's like tiny little small thing. But when I started out, I was spending more time on Instagram because I had less to do here. So I was like making more posts and, you know, I was like more interested in like doing the right kind of posts that are gonna get more likes, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I should post more. We should show more what we do here. And it's true, we should. But also at the same time, like, this is real. Like, Instagram doesn't really pay my rent. Like, I don't want to ever rely on Instagram for my money. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a fun thing to do. But like, I think that people who are professionals on Instagram is like a very different thing that I'm really not interested in. I like that at the end of the day, this whole experience at the archive is really physical and really like something that revolves around real objects. That even if internet goes down, you know, we still have something to do, like somehow. I definitely like think a lot about this. People like going offline, people realizing that a lot of the stuff that is interesting to them online can also be found in other types of places. So, you know, I don't know shit about like the way Korean people dress, the way they dress traditionally, or the way like fabrics are produced in Korea, or like traditional things in Korea that are turned into contemporary things today. Like I don't know anything about any of that, but like I'm sure there's a lot of fun stuff to discover there if I were to pay attention. Helmut Lang, to give you an idea, was a designer who was always interested in everyday clothing. He was doing a lot of things that look like underwear, simple tank tops, simple shapes, simple trousers, things that were worn by army people but done like as like a cool military old thing on a fashion show. He was interested a lot in the way clothes break, the way things look after they're worn for a very long time. So they create like a hole somewhere or like a cut somewhere. And so basically this was a designer who was really paying attention to what was happening around him. So when he made his collections in the early 90s, people thought they were very honest and very genuine and very fresh because it was like what was really happening. So I think we can also learn from that a little bit, that like having a bit of curiosity about what's happening around you can bring you a closer connection to culture and to even fashion than just looking at images that the algorithm gives you, because the algorithm is designed to show you successful images. So you see things that have been already approved. So inevitably this means that you will never really find anything new, in my opinion. So yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
뭐 더 하고 싶은 말 있어?
Right.